40 years ago, 1973, the Jesuit Superior General, Father Pedro Arrupe, addressed the alumni of Jesuit schools in Europe with a speech that was radical and controversial at that time. It was in this speech that Jesuit alumni first heard the phrase that we are now all familiar with, men and women for others. In that speech, Father Arrupe reminded us of what Jesus Christ lived and taught, namely, that true love for God cannot be separated from love of neighbor, especially the poor who live at the margins of wealth and power. He also talked about social sin and of the sinner's sinister ways in which sin hardens itself, objectifies itself, and goes out to the periphery, out of our personal core. He admitted how difficult it is to be good in a broken world, and how tempting it always is to just resign and give up and abdicate our responsibility to lead and serve others. Then he challenged us to live more simply, to refrain from profiting from unjust social structures, and to work actively in dismantling these systems of injustice in the world. Men and women for others. We always run the risk of these words becoming a tired phrase, an empty slogan. That is why we are grateful for today's convocation calling us to celebrate Arrupe's challenge to become men and women for others. It is a timeless challenge, one that we find happily, indelibly incarnated in the lives of 5 persons we honor and celebrate today. This afternoon, my dear friends, we find ourselves in the presence of people who have wrestled with that timeless call to become men and women for others. May our gathering stir something noble and holy inside our very core. And may this stirring, this quickening inside, move out to the periphery and renew our resolve to make the love of God real once more in our lives. Welcome to the Ateneo de Manila. Welcome to the 2013 Traditional University Awards.
Thank you very much. I and my family were extremely surprised when we were informed that I was to be this year's recipient of the Lux in Domino Award. Maraming salamat. The last time I addressed the Ateneo community was in March 30, 1949, when I delivered the valedictory address in behalf of our graduating class. The commencement exercises marked the beginning of that Ateneo life when we were thrust into the world to be lux in Domino, to be the light of the Lord in the world. I remember how I concluded that speech. It is customary for every valedictory to thank parents, loved ones, and school for the sacrifices they have made for us. I believe that there can be no greater expression of our gratitude than that we dedicate our lives to change the world for Christ, and if need be, to die fighting for the cause.
In behalf of our family, I would like to express our deep gratitude to the Ateneo community for the award you have given my husband Jesse this afternoon. Let me share an interesting story. I think Jesse shared this with Ateneo High School students who invited him for a talk a few months before he died. Jesse shared that while he was used to speaking before myriad audiences, from global conferences to national television, speaking before the Ateneo community was the speaking engagement that made him really nervous. Jesse's relationship with Ateneo was never a breeze, especially during the last few years of his life. He always stood by things he felt strongly about, even if it meant locking horns with friends and colleagues. I believe this was one of the reasons my husband was accorded the honors this afternoon. Ateneo is not an institution that teaches blind obedience. Ateneo advocates free thinking and devotion to the truth. I guess this is what made Jesse nervous whenever he spoke in front of the Ateneo community. He knew that the words he said would only be accepted without reservations if they are parallel with the various guiding principles each Atenean stood by. Jesse took to heart the values he learned as an Atenean. They served as his North Star in everything he did. His mind was open to life's endless possibilities. He knew and, more importantly, accepted his limitations as a human person. Jesse was an ordinary man. In our family, he was the plumber, not the problem solver. He was the electrician, not the guide who shed light on a path. He was a father, never an icon of good governance. He was merely a person trying to be important to his family. Under him, Naga City prospered not because he was the only person brilliant. He surrounded himself with people who realized they could really be better. He simply opened opportunities for his constituents, and as they grew, so did the city. In Naga, NGOs were given seats in the Sanggunian to participate in policy making. The local school board was reinvented just to accommodate private entities in the decision-making process. A program called iGovernance was also set up, so even unaffiliated citizens will have a say in how the local government is run. From Jesse, I learned that as a leader, the greatest gesture a person can do for his country, or the world for that matter, is to give people the chance to prosper at the things they are good at. Each person is unique, equipped with his own arsenal of strengths and weaknesses. Holding a person back from what he can do is depriving society of unique skills sets that only that individual can offer. This is the greatest lesson a free mind can teach. By accepting our limitations, we allow others to shine. We allow them to be better and better people, stem for progressive societies. In Ateneo's words, give the people the opportunity of doing magis. This is the very core of selflessness, of being men and women for others. Before the incident off the coast of Masbate, I was approaching the airport to pick him up, but he told me his plane was going back to Cebu. He told me in the calmest voice that he would call me later. He called back in the strangest way. He called back as a fish vendor, a pedicab driver, a random person commenting on my Facebook. He called back as a person from all walks of life. A month from now, we will be celebrating his first death anniversary. And still, He persists in sending us messages that we do not need to be someone to contribute to society. We just have to be somebody who thinks freely and accepts our limitations as a human person. This award is an affirmation that we have indeed heard him, and we are with him in continuing the crusade for a progressive society. On this note, may I again express our deepest gratitude and honor that I am accepting this government service award for my husband. In behalf of my family, again, our sincerest gratitude.
This is really a special day for me. Firstly, it's my birthday today. Secondly, this is my third award from the Ateneo system, and I'm very grateful for it. With 2 previous honorary doctorates, I'm beginning to think that I may be one of its favorite sons. It cannot be that I have simply outlived everybody else, because our foremost awardee today is a little older than I am. Thirdly, I am honored to share the stage with Jesse Robredo. So shortly after his appointment, Jesse gave the leaders of our poor his cell number and told them to call him whenever they were in great need or danger. And they did, and he always answered their calls. I have a message from them to you, Congresswoman Lenny. They love Jesse, and they miss him terribly. It occurred to me that I'm here because in honoring me, Ateneo is honoring itself. Because it was Ateneo that shaped my life, that led me to this place. It was the Ateneo that introduced me to the poems, the classics and epic stories that spoke of ancient truths, of heroic deeds, and of the values that endure. Learnings that still resound with meaning in today's world. From the poem If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. From Romeo and Juliet, my bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. And from the man with a hoe, how will it be with kingdoms and with kings, and with those who made him to the thing he is, when this dumb terror shall rise to judge the world after the silence of centuries? It was the experience in Namfel that brought me to the poor. I thought that their poverty would stand in the way of their taking back their freedom. I was wrong. Their commitment was unconditional. The dictatorship had to go, whatever it took. And in the 1986 elections, 9 of them gave up their lives for that cause. While investigating the coup attempts, one of our major findings said the same thing, that the poor can even stand poverty, but they cannot stand injustice. There are agrarian cases where beneficiaries with better rights to the land would voluntarily share their small parcels with others because, in their own words, okay lang sir, mahirap din sila. How can anyone not be inspired by such unselfishness amidst their poverty? EDSA was a shining moment of solidarity because it was driven by a nobility of purpose bigger than ourselves. We locked arms with the poor and promised them a just and progressive society. We even wrote a constitution whose heart is social justice. But after the celebrations, we went our separate ways, drifted back to self-interest and complacency, and lost the significance of our interconnected lives. Today, our promise remains unfulfilled. We have the dubious distinction in our part of the world as the country with the highest poverty incidence and the highest income inequality, an inequality that has not changed since EDSA. The latest data tell us why. The top 40 families in our country capture most of the increases in the gross domestic product, 76% in 2011, much higher than the top 40 families in neighboring countries. We know this is wrong, and we know that this must change. In giving me the award, the citation mentions electoral reform and Hacienda Luisita case. In both cases, there is still much to be done because before they are considered accomplished, which means I still have work to do to earn this award. The task is huge and will outlive me, but if more people become more concerned about the quality of elections and more outraged at the corruption of the elected, we might get a head start on the needed changes. In all these instances, and there are many, the poor have the most at stake and they need help. The poor stood with us in regaining our democracy. It is our turn to stand with them in making democracy meaningful in their lives, regardless of the cost to the few in power and in wealth. As we learned in our study of the law, let justice be done though the heavens fall. In closing, allow me to pay tribute to the NGO and lawyer volunteers who pass up lucrative pursuits to attend to the poor, and more important, help them develop new leaders from their own ranks. Whether in isolated rural areas where survival is a daily and deadly challenge, or in the majestic halls of justice, where a new generation of jurisprudence is badly needed to uphold the social justice mandate of our Constitution. It is said that the whole development of law is about closing the gap between law and justice. We are fortunate that we have extraordinary everyday heroes from the NGOs and the legal profession, manning the trenches with a dedication and, I might add, joyful disposition to carry out this mission. I invited some of them today to represent the real recipients for this award. And together we say to this great institution of learning, thank you, Ateneo.
I want to thank the Ateneo de Manila University through its Board of Trustees for this Bukas Award, recognizing a simple missionary work. I have not run the race. I have not fought the good fight to win an earthly prize. But the prize overtook me with surprise and alarm. I received this award with all my partners in mind, and I take the opportunity to thank them. In the foundation, we feel like one big family, where ideals of St. Ignatius and St. Francis of Assisi keep us alive in the midst of risk and threats. It is in Assisi family that I earned the courage to introduce and implement innovative projects because of their trust and confidence given me. From 1995 to 1998, I was blessed and privileged to be partner of our own Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle. His Eminence sent seminarians to me in Mindanao for exposure as part of their pastoral year in formation. My relations with the seminarians widened my vision and the spirituality of my mission, and developed in me a stronger attraction to missionary adventures. I thank God for the Pinialan Steward community organized to have in the parish. This is the group that decided to hammer their swords into plows and their spears to pruning hooks, and to work for reforms as soldiers of Christ, helping people achieve their aspirations to champion the promotion of sustainable agriculture, justice, peace, and integrity of creation, so that in the words of Isaiah, nations will never go to war, never prepare for battle again. I thank God for friends. In 1985, I was introduced by Mr. Howard D. to then Mrs. Corazon Aquino, who with her friends shared resources so that we could launch Pagkaon program to feed the hungry children of Negros. My gratitude for the experience of working with a man, the late Francisco Araneta, S.J., in his parish in Bayanan, Muntinlupa, and the experience of working in the diocesan program in the Diocese of Bacolod under the late Bishop Antonio Fortis. Now that I am old, I thank God that my provincial and my local coordinator still allow me to work as a farmer and a baker. Thank you.
Good afternoon. To be recognized for one's work is always gratifying, and it is more so when the recognition comes from an institution one admires. I have been asked how and why I decided to devote a career, a life, to Philippine cultural and historical studies. I don't think it was ever a conscious decision made at a particular point in time. It is more like a natural, organic extension of growing up as son of public school teachers in a small town in northern Mindanao at a time when civics was not just a lesson in class, but part of the reality of community life, of dreaming very early on of becoming a writer, and then embracing a career as a teacher. Finding myself detained upon the declaration of martial law and being impelled by that experience by a sense of urgency in understanding why the society of which one is a part is what it is. And then finally, and quite simply, of finding great joy in learning, in writing, and in sharing what one has learned. I suppose one can say that in personal terms, my interest in historical and cultural studies is really a way of summing up a life. Scholars investigate nationalism as a problem, tracing its origins and development, contesting how it is defined, investigating the benign and malignant forms it takes, lamenting or celebrating its decline in a globalizing world. But for one who writes about the Philippines and lives in the Philippines, and not having thought even once of actually leaving it, nationalism is not something abstract and intellectual. It is deeply existential. It is our family, friends, the environment, we inhabit, the local landscapes we have seen, the people who share this spot of earth with us, those we love, and even those we do not quite love, the joys as well as the aggravations, the sheer accumulation of memories that has inexorably defined who we are, both individually and collectively. This may seem too personal, but this feeling of solidarity, of horizontal comradeship, of comunitas, is precisely what gives rise to a nation and sustains it. Beyond those who are honored this evening and the various achievements recognized, I would like to think that it is this shared sense of community that the awards celebrate. And this evening, it is what we shall bask in and enjoy. Thank you all.
The original statuette of the Sacred Heart was carved with a penknife by Jose Rizal when he was a student at the Ateneo Municipal de Manila from 1872 to 1877 and is entrusted to the university archives for safekeeping. We will request everyone to remain on stage for a photo opportunity. May we ask you to come together for a group photo, please? Let us all give them a round.